Welcome everyone to the Green Dialogue, and um, happy you made it here. We'll get started. Today we have a special guest, Laura Young with the Office of Sustainability at MSU, and some of you might know Laura. She's going to talk a little bit about some of the fun sustainability things going on at MSU. And you also might remember her from the Institute of Water Research, where she served as the Research and Outreach Director for 7 years. So glad you all could make it. And without further ado, welcome, Laura.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to see if I can get my PowerPoint set up here. And hold on a second. Screen. All right. I think everybody should see that okay, yeah? Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Leroy, for inviting me and for that kind introduction. I'm really happy to be with you all today. So I'm hoping to do kind of a brief presentation and then looking forward to hearing from all of you and engaging in some great conversation around sustainability at MSU. But where I'm going to start is just kind of level setting about what sustainability is, because I know from my experience, this is a term that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And, you know, it's a very, very interdisciplinary complex topic that has evolved over the years. So I'm really fortunate. I'm a sustainability manager at MSU. These kinds of jobs, like actually having sustainability in a job title, didn't exist 20 years ago. I got my undergrad at MSU in environmental studies, and that predated our community sustainability department, all these things. So it is, you know, a relatively newer field and coming off the heels of a lot of different disciplines, which is really, really exciting, I think, to see. So that said, again, want to talk about what this concept might mean, because I know in my work, people might say, oh, you work in sustainability, so you must do recycling or renewable energy or what have you. And it's definitely a lot more than that. So traditionally, a lot of people might have heard sustainability defined as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the needs of those in the future. You might have also heard of the interdependence of ecological, social, cultural, and economic systems. Maybe you've heard it framed around the triple bottom line, which might be people, planet, profit, or social, economy, environment, something along those lines, coupled human and natural systems, well-being or reciprocity and caretaking. So any of those definitions would not surprise me if that's kind of something that you've heard about. And I'll just say, you know, we could spend hours trying to define this concept. And there are a lot of different ways to kind of look at it. So what's on the screen right now is kind of that triple bottom line approach. There's a lot of different variations if you've ever seen kind of this concept or the Venn diagram here. But where we've kind of been thinking, you know, when we engage with folks that might be new to sustainability, is we like to talk about the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So if you aren't familiar with these, there are 17 goals with a whole bunch of specific targets underneath them that the UN member states all came together and agreed to, I want to say around 2015. And what I really, really like about they're abbreviated as the SDGs, so I apologize if you hear me say that. What I really like about them is that they're pretty quick, I think, to relate to and kind of understand these different concepts. And I think in terms of, I always like to think of sustainability as a systems concept and kind of getting at that interdependence of all these different connected systems. And so if we're trying to, say, protect the planet or our natural resources and ecological systems, and folks are struggling with poverty or food insecurity or health matters, things of that nature, it's going to be really, really hard for us to kind of come together and do what we need to do to, one, care for each other and care for the planet. And so this is always a great way from my perspective of kind of really bringing in the social components that make up sustainability, while also highlighting some of the environmental pieces of that and how, again, they're all kind of interconnected. And if you really want to achieve some great things across any one of those areas, there's going to be consequences in the other ones. And, it's just this complex system that we have. So I just wanted to kind of level set right there in terms of thinking about sustainability. But what I would like to spend the rest of my time for my short presentation today is just talking about sustainability at MSU, and some of the fun things and whatnot that we have going on. For additional context, I'm sure, everyone is probably very familiar with MSU, but always good to kind of remind folks that MSU in and of itself really is like its own city. We have, at least pre-COVID, we would have about 65,000 people navigating campus every day, Monday through Friday, and we had classes going. We have our own power plant. We've got solar carports. We've got our water tower, water distribution system. We've got a wellhead protection area on our South Campus farms. We've got our own recycling plant. We're a 5,200 acre campus, over 560 buildings. So we are this massive institution with a kind of complex structure, in terms of the inner workings of how we get work done, which can make our work in sustainability really fun and sometimes a little challenging as well, just trying to, advance work in such a large organization. So as I mentioned, and as Leroy had said, I'm in the Office of Sustainability. And so what we do is we're an enterprise resource for the whole institution for sustainability. And we serve in a convener role to bring folks together because we are so large, trying to break down silos, and get folks kind of on the same page and thinking about what we can do. We collaborate a lot with partners on campus and off campus. We help track and report on university sustainability goals and try to amplify and raise awareness about the good things that are happening at MSU in the sustainability space. We develop programs for our campus community. We do a lot of work with students that are interested and passionate about sustainability and trying to help prepare them to kind of take on the challenges of tomorrow. And then, we try to exemplify leadership, locally, regionally, across the state and the nation. And what you see on the right is a sustainability framework that we have. And so, thinking of MSU as an institution of higher learning, the operational piece in terms of like waste, water, energy, food, procurement absolutely is very, very important to what we do as an institution. But we also really want to make sure that when we think about sustainability and how we're helping advance this work, that it's tied to kind of the core mission of MSU, which is around teaching, learning, research, and outreach. So what you see here is, yes, we've got our campus piece, which kind of represents that traditional operational stuff in terms of how we turn on the lights and feed people and take care of the trash and recycling. And then curriculum really speaking to how we teach our students about sustainability challenges, the research that's happening here, community, how we translate this knowledge outside of MSU with community partners. And then ultimately, really, the be all end all is that we're embedding sustainability throughout the entire culture of MSU so that all of our Spartans, as they go about their day, are making decisions with a positive sustainability outcome with them. So what is so, maybe this is like the best challenge. It is always so hard for me to talk about sustainability at MSU in a really succinct way because there's so much cool stuff happening. But one thing I wanted to say is that while we do all of what I just shared, in the Office of Sustainability, we're a pretty small office, and the best work that's happening at MSU is really happening by all of our partners. And there are so many cool units, amazing people on this campus that care about MSU, that care about our community, that care about making the world a better place, and they are doing amazing things every day. So what you see on the slide here is just a few highlights of different programs that I think really make up kind of this core resource with sustainability on campus. But there are so many more, and I just didn't want to necessarily overwhelm you all with my presentation today. So I imagine, and once I get done presenting, would love to hear if anyone's been to our surplus store and recycling center. So this is a place where we've got our own recycling plant. They also have a relatively new vermicompost facility. So that's taking pre-consumer vegetable scraps and coffee grounds and things from the dining halls, retail outlets, and turning all that food waste from our campus into compost that you can then buy at our surplus store. And they do that using worms, which is super, super cool. And if you've never been on a tour, let me know, because there will be some public opportunities. We usually have a couple throughout the year to be able to come check it all out. And then the surplus store, that's reselling used goods on campus. You can find some really, really unique MSU items. And I will say, especially for gift giving and things of that nature, I always love going there and just getting, MSU syrup or honey or things like that, or products made from MSU trees. They just got some really, really awesome things. And boy, oh boy, do they do a lot for campus. So this year alone, they diverted 12 million pounds of materials from the landfill. And I'll say a really, really quick fun story. So they are selling the recyclable materials to different vendors. We try really hard to keep a lot of that material within our region, whether it's in the state or the Midwest. But right now, some of the commodity prices for recyclables are really, really, they're low. So I think for plastic water bottles, maybe during COVID, the price was about 13 cents a pound for one of our big bales that we have. And right now, I think it's a cent or less than a cent. So like really, really low prices. But what's really, really cool is that our folks at Surplus and Recycling do such an awesome job collecting our materials, keeping contamination low, that the folks that take our plastic water bottles are willing to pay us 5 or 6 cents a pound because they know the material they're getting is really, really good. So shout out to our folks at Surplus and Recycling. We've got MSU Bikes, great resource. I know at least during the pandemic, that was maybe one of the only places you could find a bike if you were looking for one when all that crazy time period started. A really wonderful resource for commuting or thinking about bike safety. Can't say enough about them. We have our amazing student organic farm. They've started a new program where they are donating produce to student families on campus, the Student Parent Resource Center. And this fall alone, they've donated over 3,000 pounds of fresh, good, healthy food for Spartan families, which is amazing. We have our W.J. Beale Botanical Garden, which has been celebrating its 150th anniversary. And everyone who's been to campus knows that that is just like the heart, gem, soul of campus and such a special place. And then we also have our residential initiative on the study of the environment, RISE program. And what's pictured there is the Bailey Greenhouse and Urban Farm that's connected with that program. And that's a living learning opportunity for students on campus where they kind of have a cohort model engaged in learning about sustainability and the environment in some really applied hands-on ways, which is really cool. I thought it'd be good to mention that MSU is absolutely committed to sustainability. In our MSU 2030 strategic plan, we have a whole theme dedicated to stewardship and sustainability. And some of the key goals that might be of interest to folks on the call today, we are committed to achieving climate neutrality by 2050, but we have a more immediate goal for 2030 to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by 2030 from our 2010 baseline. And as of fiscal year 2022, we're at a 36% reduction. And there's been some pretty significant infrastructure upgrades at our power plant that we're hoping, we're very eager to see how our fiscal year 2023 greenhouse gas emissions report comes out to start realizing some of the benefits of that. All right, and then this is my last slide, and then look forward to chatting with you all, but I thought it'd just be fun to share just some more cool things that are happening on campus. And so maybe I'll start we've had so many cool outside recognitions of the work that's happening. So there is a sustainability ranking called the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings. Those look at how institutions of higher education are helping support those UN Sustainable Development Goals. We are currently ranked number 26 in the whole world out of about 1,600 institutions, which is super cool. We just got notice this past month that we are a top 50 green college for the Princeton Review's list. And we're the only school in Michigan right now to be on that, which is really, really exciting. We are a gold rated institution for sustainability. We're a gold rated bicycle friendly university. We've been an affiliate of Tree Campus Higher Education for a number of years. Just last year, we became an affiliate of Bee Campus USA, thinking about how we can support pollinators. And then our libraries, they've become a climate resilience hub through communities responding to extreme weather events. And what this means is that, you know, if there's severe heat, severe cold, or power outages, or what have you, the community can come to the library and use that space as a heating or cooling space, charge their phones, that kind of a thing. So shout out to our folks at the library. This year, MSU is celebrating the arts at MSU. And if you're kind of wondering, well, what do the arts have to do with sustainability? It's a really great way to kind of bring in the community to think about complex topics in maybe a more accessible way. And so they're doing some really, really amazing things, whether it's at the MSU Museum, Broad Art Museum, Beale Garden is under our arts and collections group. So a lot of wonderful things happening there, and I can share a link to some of the fun things they've got going on. We continue to do a lot of food donations. We have a long-running pack-up pitch-in program. And for spring move out, we collect a bunch of food from students moving out of the halls and donate it to local organizations. We collected nearly 12,000 pounds, which is tremendous. We also do a lot of activities around Earth Month. So if anybody is interested in volunteering to treat invasive species, or we've got some pollinator gardens on campus. If you want to help mulch or pull some weeds, we'd always love more hands, so I can get some more information to you out about that. I also want to give a shout out again to Surplus Store and Recycling Center. They actually won a national award for sustainability this year, which is really exciting. And then my last two highlights, we have a new building on campus. It's the STEM Teaching and Learning Facility that's right over by the stadium, if you are familiar with campus. And what's really, really neat about this building is it was one of the first buildings in the state to use, instead of steel beams, like what you would see right here, they're using wood. So this is called mass timber, and it's a technology or process, I guess, that's maybe been used more in Europe, and we're starting to adopt it here in Michigan. And with our natural resources, our forests, the industry that we have here, this has been a really great exemplar. We have a whole MSU mass timber program from a research standpoint, and outreach standpoint, trying to help build this industry out for the state, which is really, really cool. So if you've never been to that building, if you happen to be on campus one day and you're over by the stadium, walk through it. It's really, really cool. And what's also cool is it's actually also on the site of the old power plant on campus, and they've actually kept part of that structure. And so you can see the old boiler, part of an old boiler and things like that when you walk in the building. Okay, and my final last kind of highlight for today, because I think this is so cool, is some things that have happened at our power plant, which again are definitely going to have some significant implications for reducing our carbon footprint. We've installed reciprocating internal combustion engines and also a new steam package boiler at the power plant. And these two kind of massive infrastructure upgrades are really, really going to help us make the plant more efficient, reduce our costs, and reduce our carbon footprint kind of at the highest level. So shout out to all the folks involved to make that happen. Oh, and I would be remiss to say, I know this is coming up for Meridian Township, and shout out to everybody at Meridian that has been working on the Lake Lansing Trail. I know the ribbon cutting is coming up, and kudos to the folks at MSU that were involved with that as well. So I will leave it there, and let me stop sharing so I can see all of you again. And happy to answer any questions or discuss with everyone.
Wow, thank you so much. I can't believe you covered that much in 20 minutes, Laura. That's very impressive. What questions do people have? Oh, before we go into questions, I want to thank both Sam and Amanda for suggesting that Laura speak with us. So thank you guys for your networking. And Laura, it's amazing what you're doing there, and how articulate you are describing such a complex and interwoven system. So what questions do people have?
I've got a question for you. You know, you're in a, thank you for the presentation, by the way, but you're kind of in a MSU, and you are in a unique situation because you're doing so much in kind of a larger scheme of things, a relatively small area. So you're kind of in a position to kind of have a overview position. And I'm wondering if you were talking to a community, a township, a city, whatever, what would you suggest was the most important things to do first? Let's assume the community hasn't really done too much. How would you suggest to a community, where do you start? What's the most important things to do first?
Okay, that's a great question. And almost like, I'm like, man, I gotta think about that. I almost so from our perspective as an institution, for everything that I just shared, there is so much good work happening. We still have more to do. But what's kind of maybe funny is we don't actually have a sustainability plan. So there is a lot of opportunity on our end, I think, to do even more in a more efficient, strategic way when we have an actual coordinated plan and everybody fully is on the same page and we know what our priorities are and what our targets are. So there's a lot of work moving forward. And I think, again, there's this opportunity to be more strategic in how that work moves forward had we had a plan. So that is something that we're looking at trying to launch and get moving here. So I almost would say, if you haven't really done anything, I think starting with that coordination piece to one, bringing all the people that need to be involved in this work to the table, because it takes like the full village. And shout out to Bill McConnell and all the stuff that he does with Carla and SLE. And it's one of those of, making sure all the partners are on the table. And then I think inventorying what might actually be happening, because there may be some things that you might not be aware of, and coming together to try to help, figure out collectively what direction do you want to head. I think from a sustainability standpoint, again, you can tackle so many different areas. And I'm going to guess that for any community, there are going to be some things, maybe there's some low hanging fruit to kind of get the ball rolling, and then thinking long term about what the, what are some of those big meaty things that you really got to kind of take a step back and do that deep planning work to figure out how to make it happen. But I'd also say, from our standpoint, we are a really, really tiny office. And so our kind of strategy has been, when we have engaged willing partners, or we see an opportunity that, again, it's the low hanging fruit, or there's some energy or momentum, to take advantage of it and not hold folks up either. I think encouraging people that are willing, engaged, and passionate is a good thing too. I don't know if that fully answers your question, but I think from my standpoint, again, we don't have the plan. So if I could do it all over again, it's like, start there and set your targets, and then you all know what your North Stars are.
Great answer. Sarah?
Well, so I have a question. Well, two things. First, absolutely love the surplus store. Don't go there often enough, but want to say that our church campgrounds went to the surplus store and got the beds that were there years ago. And I mean, just what a great opportunity that was. And then also the recycling went yesterday and took the Christmas lights that is available there for recycling. So that is always, I missed it last year. So I was determined to get them there this year. And so I'm always pleased with what's there as a possibility. So my question is, I love the research and all the way. I'm really glad that you're here with us today, because it's just always wondering what MSU and sustainability are doing and that kind of thing. I'm curious what it means to say, like, there's a particular something that needs a solution. Is that a thing that you can ever go to MSU and say, well, what's the research on this or that? Or how do we get MSU to look into this particular issue that we're trying to solve? And the one that comes to mind is, we talk here a lot about the difficulty in trying to get apartment recycling, because it's complicated. There's all these different elements. And I was just curious if there's ever the kind of way of being able to say, MSU, there's this issue that we're having trouble solving. Is there a way to say, can you put a certain issue in front of the kid, in front of the students, and say, this is a sustainability issue? Can we have them take that on as a project of research? It could be that or anything else. Is that something that, like the sustainability office can go to someone in that some professor or something and say, we're looking at, we'd like to have some research done on this? Is that a thing where you can, the community can be like, there's this problem and we're working and we'd like to have help researching and solving the problem? Is that a thing?
Okay, great question. And yes, it is a thing, though the pathway to engaging with MSU can sometimes be a little complicated. So what I would say is there's a particular sustainability issue, you absolutely can reach out to me in the Office of Sustainability. And then again, from our standpoint, we are that convener role, that connector. And so usually what would happen is I'd probably talk with you, learn more about what particularly you're looking to do, or send an email if it's detailed enough, and then figuring out, okay, who else needs to be involved in this discussion. So I think I kind of alluded to this. MSU is a very complex, large organization. And in particular, we're extremely decentralized. And so normally there, to do like, especially just on campus, if we're trying to accomplish anything, we have to put a whole committee of like 30 people together because we're just that decentralized, and everybody has to come to the table to buy into it. From a specific project standpoint, there are a lot of different avenues to be able to work with students. So we're always excited about opportunities to either utilize the campus or the community as a living lab where our students are getting real world experience and actually having a meaningful, impactful result, whether on campus or in the community. There's a Center for Community Engaged Learning that does, that's like their specialty of working with community partners, identifying service opportunities and things like that for students. If you wanted a group of students to look at a particular research topic, that might be a particular professor. Maybe that's like a semester project that someone would be willing to do with their class. Or we have our Center for Community Engaged Development, and they have faculty-led or faculty-guided student-led projects. And so that might be an avenue. So like I said, there's like a lot of different options and a lot of different ways that could come together. So I think probably the best, the easiest way is if you reach out to us, and then we'll try to connect you with the right people depending on what you're looking to do. And then the last thing I would say, as far as the off-campus recycling, I know that's a particular issue, really, really, really important to our students. Our student government has passed resolutions and things of that nature, advocating for that. Our community, like Sue Webster, Janet Lilly, Sue is our community liaison, and Janet Lilly is in our government relations office covering the kind of mid-Michigan area. They've been involved in conversations historically about off-campus recycling. And I think for the university, it's always been difficult because we just don't have control of the property outside of our boundaries. But we definitely want to be there as a resource. And if you're looking for engaged students that are passionate about that topic, let me know, because I can absolutely connect you with those students.
Great. Thank you so much.
Other questions? I do want to say thanks for joining us, Ronnie Miller. Ronnie's going to be talking about her pollination lab that she's working with in about a month. So looking forward to that. What other questions or observations do people have?
Laura, of all this great work, the thing that I am not at all familiar with is RISE. So I was hoping you could tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so this is a living, learning community on campus. So there are a handful of those. And so what that means is that there's a cohort of students that are engaged in a particular topic. With the case of RISE, it's focused around sustainability and the environment. And then those students throughout the year engage in kind of, one, there's like specific coursework that they might be taking. With RISE, they're doing applied projects in sustainability. So they've got beehives, they've got their greenhouse. I'm trying to think of other projects because our office in the past had funded some projects for them, but maybe they're looking at increasing recycling in the residence halls. So they're going to do an applied project being part of this program, and it's usually focused on campus. And then they leave the program after their first year. And then I think there's an opportunity where they get to mentor students the following year, for the incoming students. And I want to say They have about 60 students in each cohort every year. They all live in Bailey Hall on campus within the Brody neighborhood. And again, they're that little greenhouse and urban farm area that I had shown, that's literally right outside their dorm room, which is really, really cool. So they're a great bunch of students, and it's really nice to kind of see that academic tie, because they're getting, I think, some really, really meaningful, robust experiential learning opportunities by participating in that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I'm curious, are they all sustainability students as a major, or is it interdisciplinary?
No, interdisciplinary. Yep. So they do not
Oh,
have to be. We do
that's
have
awesome.
an environmental studies and sustainability major, but you don't have to be in that major to be a part of that cohort. I think you just have to be passionate, interested in learning about sustainability.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sam, feel free to unmute yourself if you've got a question.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Leroy. Wow, Laura, that was fantastic. The presentation, and again, it makes me proud to be a Spartan. It was just wonderful.
Right.
I have probably a ton of questions, but I'll just mention one at least, and that is, with MSU being an agricultural college and a lot of research in agriculture, obviously. Are you connected with anything in the way of some of the, sustainable regeneration, agriculture, soil regeneration, or are you know what I'm talking about? Are people working on that, or?
Yes.
Okay.
So what I would say at a high level, I am aware of some folks doing research in that area, but in terms of our office, we haven't necessarily engaged in depth with them. I want to say maybe 1 or 2 years ago, we launched a new center for regenerative agriculture that Dr. Jason Roundtree is helping lead. So Sam, if you're interested in that information, let me just pull up, I can probably find a link for you.
Good.
So the institution is definitely looking at that. And I think, committed to it with the creation of this new center.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I just dropped a link in the chat for that.
I just, as from a comment standpoint, there's so many things with MSU's campus that have been sustainable thinking for decades. I mean, this whole idea of bicycling on campus and how that's developed from little ribbons 2 feet wide for bike trails that go one way, one this way, one way that way, to from a safety standpoint and understanding all the aspects of bike trail planning. So it's just there's so many things that I think your presentation is great, but there's no way to do everything, but there's so much to say that MSU has going for it with green infrastructure and transportation. It's just incredible. So what a good place to be in. Good for you.
Definitely. Well, and my response is totally agree and agree on the Spartan pride, and let's leverage that excitement about it to do more. Because there is more to do, for sure.
Kim, go ahead.
Hey, Laura, great presentation. Question for you about how decentralized MSU is. I know, trying to find information, you can find yourself going down quite a few different rabbit holes, attempting to come up with the right location. Has there been any thought given to somehow maybe coordinating some of those searches to narrow down, I don't know quite how to say this, make it easier to search for specific projects because everything is spread all across campus.
Is that like specifically around sustainability or just in general?
In general, but from your aspect for sustainability.
Okay, well, on the in general level, I can't really speak to that. And from the sustainability perspective, that's really something we've been working on to try to build out in the Office of Sustainability. So we have a website. I'm going to say we've been trying to overhaul our website for 3 years now and still haven't had the chance yet to do it just because we've been so limited on bandwidth. And I think that is a project that we definitely are legitimately going to tackle next year to make it easier. Because I know there's actually a lot of great information on our website, but I fully recognize it's not necessarily the easiest to use. And I think for us to kind of get to the point where the Office of Sustainability had gone through a lot of different transitions over the last several years. And so we've really been trying to just build back a core foundation so that we can kind of move our work forward. And I think on that kind of storytelling piece, I think we're getting really good at maybe being able to tell the story around research. And I think we have more work to do in terms of telling the story around some of the operational things, or even some of the highlights that I shared today, where I often feel like we're our own best kept secret. And so we need to kind of come together and figure out how do we better communicate that out. And so again, that's why I was so excited when Leroy, you reached out just to be able to talk with all of you and again highlight. I mean, I can't even tell you, I know, again, I will be the first to say there is so much more work to do at MSU, but also taking a step back to acknowledge there's a lot of really cool things happening and most people just have no clue that they are. So I am always super excited when I can take a minute to kind of reflect and share that.
Yeah, I agree. If you can find, there's so many projects and so much research going on at MSU that to try and narrow anything down can be a real challenge.
Mm-hmm. For sure. We do this really comprehensive report called STARS that stands for Sustainability Tracking, Assessment, and Rating System. And that's our gold. That's where we get our gold rating for sustainability. And so we do that report every 3 years, and that gets pretty comprehensive. I mean, we inventory every researcher that's conducting research in sustainability and literally going web page by web page, connecting with committees, trying to make sure that we've covered the bases. And the last time we went through that process, we found that we had over 500 researchers engaged in different sustainability research projects. But it definitely is a little bit tedious because we are so big. But I think, maybe it's a good problem to have. Again, keeps it fun. But within that STARS report, that is actually a public facing report. So anybody can go and look at that information, and I can share our most recent one. It's from 2022. But I will say with STARS, the information is there, but it might be a little cumbersome to kind of look at. I'll put it that way, just how their kind of website is set up where it gets published. So
Thank you.
Grab this link for you. Yep.
Hey, Laura, I had heard that the big solar project in the south side of campus had been canceled, I guess, but I'm wondering if you know of anything kind of being considered in the solar energy area on campus.
Yeah, so what the institution has been doing probably for the last year, I want to say, is looking at a utility master plan. So our power plant, I want to say, became operational in about 1965, or I know we've got some old equipment over there. So regardless of whatever we do, we've got some things that are coming up on end of life and we're going to have to replace one way or the other. And so for this utility master planning process, they are looking at what our energy needs are going to be over the next few decades. I think looking at least out through 2040. Doing condition assessments of all of the equipment that we use to power campus, and then trying to figure out the next step is, well, do we do status quo of, well, the old boiler needs to be replaced, so we just put in the same type of technology, or do we use some other technology or suite of technologies to help power campus? So that's what that whole planning process is looking at, and really deep dive at that data. Right now we're revising our energy demand model because of we've had an ongoing facilities and land use planning process and looking at the expected growth of our campus square footage in terms of buildings, how much more construction things we're going to put in. And so we don't really have an answer yet of like if we're going to take on any major energy projects and building new things on campus yet, because they're looking at all those kind of options within this utility master planning process. And like I said, they're right now revising the energy forecast, and then we'll be circling back to the different options, which, you know, solar's certainly something they're looking at.
And when would the kind of planning process be done approximately?
You know,
There's a lot to look at, so.
yeah, I don't know. I think right now they got a little bit of a curveball because what they had expected in terms of projected growth for campus buildings was a little bit lower than what ended up coming out in the or it's not yet final, but soon to be final campus facilities and land use plan. So they're having to take a step back to rework those energy demand forecasts. So I think had that little hiccup not happened, it would be sooner, but I'm not sure kind of what that means for the overall timeline of the project.
Thanks.
Laura, I noticed you grew up in Okemos, which is close here. Sam is writing a book about Mud Lake, which is the wildlife lake behind Hazlitt High School. I'm kind of wondering how much did Okemos influence your interest in the environment, or were there natural places like Mud Lake that you that shaped your goals in life?
Yeah, okay. So I actually grew up in Saline, Michigan, right outside Ann Arbor. But then I came to MSU as an undergrad, and then I just never left. But I have lived in Okemos for a number of years now, so it's definitely home, and I absolutely love our community. I love our parks and going out and just on the trails and all those things. And I would say from a young perspective, my dad, you know, he'd hunt and fish, and I had on my mom's side, some of her relatives had an orchard down near Hillsdale or Somerset, Michigan. And so kind of looking back, I ended up just spending a lot of time outdoors. And I don't think I really put the pieces together that, you know, kind of how all that came to be. But when I was a freshman at MSU, my RA, she was in James Madison, but she had a particular interest in kind of looking at government and things from a environmental standpoint, and that kind of piqued my interest. And then I signed up for our environmental studies degree, and then the rest was history. But yeah, love being outside. I'll tell you what, my life goal is to retire as early as humanly possible so that I can go have a little cabin and just retire off in the woods.
You might like Sam's book, and it should be published fairly soon. It strikes me as it might be a good read for some classes at MSU.
Absolutely.
The way
Yeah.
he ties together the environment and sort of that impact that the environment has on young people and old people as well. Just a little plug for Sam there.
Yes. Keep us posted when it comes out. I'd love to read it.
Any other questions?
Leroy? This is Roberta. Thanks, Laura. I love hearing all that MSU is doing for sustainability. It's just absolutely wonderful. And I love your enthusiasm. It's just like, oh, the world is not lost. And I'm an avid thrifter. I love the thrift store. I love the on-campus bike shop is an awesome resource. My question has to do with information sources. There is so much going on, and I'm curious if you have any suggestions on if somebody wants to go find out, what are the programs that are going on in the next month or the next 3 months that for the public, like, a tour of the children's garden or the Bee Palooza or the tours of the recycling center and the thrift store and all those kinds of things. Is there any centralized information place?
Yes. So we try our best to be able to promote those opportunities. One on our website. We also have a monthly newsletter And then that'll highlight any campus events that are going on, at least that we're aware of, because again, we probably missed some things. And then at least for our students, we utilize social media to help promote, things that are going on campus. I would say if you're really into the surplus store and recycling center, they have their own newsletter. So I'd probably highly recommend subscribing for that, because that'll share all the awesome things they have going on, and you'll be able to stay in the know for those. So again, we do reshare. And then I will also own for our newsletter. So right now we're only a staff of 2. So again, we're always being mindful of our resources and our bandwidth.
Yeah.
So
wow.
our communications and efforts or programming things in partnership with Student Life and Engagement in particular, they have a sustainability team over there that's just amazing and have done so much good for campus with their eco reps and everything else. So our newsletter is a little more targeted for students, though it would highlight public events. And then I'd say for folks here, there are 2 times a year where I think you'll see a lot of activity related to sustainability on campus from a kind of public event standpoint. So October is Sustainability Month. And so we'll usually try to condense a lot of efforts and do bigger events during that month, especially it's, kind of towards the start of the school year. People have settled in. And then we also do a lot in April because of Earth Day and trying to make that whole month around Earth Month. And April also happens to be MSU Science Festival. And so there's always really, really great programs happening there. A lot of them end up actually targeting different sustainability topics. And then Surplus and Recycling, they have started kind of doing a big annual event in October and in April, where the tour can come out, or public can come out for tours of the whole facility. They usually have some upcycling crafts. They've been doing clothing and book swaps, or kind of a free cycle opportunity. So they'll put out some items and the public can come and kind of take what looks good to them, because otherwise those materials, might wind up in the landfill. So there's just so those would be kind of I'd say watch out for stuff in October and April, though there's always things going on throughout the year, but those are kind of our big lifts. And if you want our newsletter, I will.
Leroy just put it in the chat, and it's really easy to get to the.
Perfect.
I just did it.
Perfect.
So thank you very much.
Excellent. Yeah.
Looking forward to getting that.
I'm not sure that's the direct link that Laura might share, but.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a button right on the page. It's yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
It's easy.
If you go to our homepage, as Amanda said, there's a little thing for newsletter. Like I said, there is a little bit more of a student focus to it, but I would say we'll communicate any public events for that. And I will also say our students are amazing. I can't even tell you, again, I think Roberta, you were saying, sometimes if you kind of get the doom and gloom thinking about sustainability, students are like the best pick me up, where I'm like, you know what? There are these young people that care. As they get out and go out into the world, they're going to do amazing things. And I think, collectively across generations and everything, we're going to continue to try to make the world a better place. And so we usually do some highlights and things in our newsletter of what students have going on. And I always just find that really rewarding to kind of see the amazing things that young people are doing.
I have a random question. Is the FRIB involved with, or FRIB involved with sustainability efforts?
So that's another area that we haven't really connected with as in office, though from the utility master planning perspective, I don't even think FRIB is still fully operational in terms of their energy demand. And so that is definitely something that plan in particular is looking at, to make sure that, for whatever our energy needs are, that particular facility is being taken into account because of how kind of unique it is with its energy use and whatnot.
It would seem like some of the solutions to sustainability would come out of that innovative kind of cutting edge science.
Sure. Well, and I think what's cool about MSU is that, again, there's like the blessing and curse of being so big, but there's so much amazing research happening here. And kind of my point earlier, where we don't necessarily have a sustainability plan yet, I'm really excited about, as we kind of move along in that process of better connecting our academic side of the house with our operational side so that we're leveraging the expertise that we have on campus to help improve campus.
Awesome. We have about 10 more minutes. If anybody have any related questions or unrelated things that they want to just share with the group. Seems like we have about 60 new topics for potential dialogues in the future. Thanks to you, Laura.
Happy to help.
Hope you join us again sometime. We try and do this every Wednesday. Next week we have Julie Lehman from the Garden Project.
Oh, very cool.
Going to talk about some of the community garden initiatives she's involved with. And we have our food team who's doing a lot of capturing extra food in the surplus food in the area, food rescue. They're going to be joining us the week after that. Any questions? I'll shut up for a minute. And if you have any questions for us, Laura, you're welcome to offer those as well.
Oh, I'm trying to think of I mean, has everyone like one? I'd be curious. Has everyone been to our MSU recycling or surplus store? Seeing mostly nodding heads. Cool.
Yep.
Has everyone been to Beale Botanical Garden?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Has anyone ever eaten at Brody Hall? Okay, so
Yes.
another fun fact for you, again, because there's so much and I was trying to be mindful of time to make sure we were able to talk. So Student Life and Engagement does such a great job with sustainability. And so for all the food that you eat at Brody, if you ended up taking a little bit too much or what have you, if there's something left on your plate, that gets sent to a pulper in the facility and it crushes up the leftover foods. And then Surplus and Recycling picks up that food waste and actually sends it to an anaerobic digester on campus, where it takes that food waste mixed with a whole bunch of manure and things from our farms to help heat and power some of our campus farm buildings. So if you're eating at Brody, there's a real, really mindful of the food waste there because it's taking that post-consumer waste to turn it into energy. And then again, all the pre-consumer food scraps and things, that's getting sent over to the vermicomposting facility. Is there, I mean, maybe be curious, for this group, and yeah, I'd definitely love to join future dialogues. And so I'm very excited to kind of get connected with this group. I mean, I think from some of the comments, it sounds like there's kind of this thing of how do you find information at MSU or how do we stay aware of things? From the work that you've been doing in the township, I mean, have you found anything successful? Because one thing that I always struggle with is that there's so many things competing for our attention these days. And how do you kind of cut through the noise to actually share, kind of what's happening? And so I always find it's things like this or in-person interactions that are much more helpful. So then you start getting connected or know who to go to for information, just because, again, I don't know about you, but the number of emails I get, or, if you're looking at social media and stuff, there's just we're just like an information overload all the time. So I guess I'd be curious to hear if anyone has had success.
Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, Laura. And knowing a little bit about MSU, I worked there for 10 years and years ago. And some of the questions that have come up about how long is the planning going to take to get this different things, those kinds of questions. People have to understand that MSU is, it's reliant on a lot of state funding as well, and a whole boatload of other funding, grants from everywhere. So that's part of, I think, what Laura's alluded to as some of the challenges is that there's so much going on in different places. So people are naturally working in silos. So that's a challenge, but kind of getting to the point here, from a sustainability standpoint, and I think from what I witnessed at MSU, to get things done, you got to go to the top. You know what I mean? It used to be Jack Breslin's office and, the Hill Capital Outlay Group that got the revenue from the state of Michigan, and a lot of lobbying to get all that taken care of. As an example, starting there in 1976, working on the campus or the plant and soil science building from a preliminary plan standpoint. And then 10 years later, I was working on the construction drawings. I mean, it wasn't even out of the ground yet. So it was a 10-year process. Just you put it on, get it off the shelf, put it back on the shelf. And as the money comes in, it just takes a while. So you're not really in control of what you do. The people that control it are the people that have the money to make things happen. So I guess where I'm going with this is the state of Michigan has a sustainability plan, and it's been it's a priority of our governor, and it may be something that you want to connect with those folks with and do some serious partnering to ramp up what you're doing. I mean, just again, the more partners you have, the stronger your organization and movement is. So that might be a good group to partner with.
Absolutely. Great suggestion, Sam.
I want to give kudos to Sarah, who's a sustainability group. She joined this when we first started and had the question about what's going on in the environment. And that sparked this 3-year series of dialogues that we've had every week. And partly for that, to answer that question that you asked, Laura, is like, how do we connect? How do we find out what's going on in the community? That led to a project that Amanda had a staff person working on. Maybe that's why your hand is up, but developed a resource. So I'll let you talk about that.
So yeah, at that basic level, from the public perspective, working for the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission, there's just so many excellent resources. That's all of Greater Lansing, and the 3 counties really tend to cooperate quite a bit together. But it's an environmental resource guide, and has every topic, and then a contact person if we have that, or at least a website, and possibly phone numbers. I know that's not the most popular method of engagement, but it contains everything that we have. So hopefully that'll be released by the end of this year is our goal. So I'd be happy to share that with you. In fact, maybe I'll share it in advance in case you have additional contacts.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, awesome.
They may want to make their own, or maybe they already have one.
No,
it could be a nice complementary, supplementary.
Awesome. Yeah. I'll be sure to share that.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I'd love to take a look.
The other thing that I was sort of overwhelmed when I started working here, just doing a monthly newsletter was one way for me to sort of capture some of those little tidbits that would float in occasionally, and then share them in a electronic way. But it's a great question, Laura. How do we find out about what's going on and share that and connect on those things that make sense to connect on?
Yeah, the Tri-County, you guys shared that with us a couple months ago, and I'm so excited that you guys took that on and did that, because I just think there's such an important piece to knowing what other people are doing so that you're not constantly reinventing the wheel. So if somebody else is doing something, then why in the world, either pair up and help, but not just continue to everybody doing their own thing. I think that's what's so important about that kind of stuff, is who's doing what, so that you're not saying, oh, I'll do it and I'll do it and I'll do it, but let's all do it, or in whatever way that is. And then you find the key players that actually know what they're doing or whatever. And so I'm so thrilled with what you guys did to put that together. So thank you. It looks really great.
Yay. Laura, I feel like this group has been really helpful for me.
Yeah.
And we've talked about possibly having a larger regional meeting or dialogue. And I think everyone here is interested in that as well, if you ever see that opportunity.
Excellent. Well, I'm gonna have to start blocking 9 a.m. on Wednesdays so I can make these meetings.
That would
But
be
yeah, I mean,
awesome.
part of it is just the having networks to go to like this is so useful.
If any of you have suggestions for upcoming speakers, we have some openings. We're trying to do more speaker kicking things off for the dialogue, and you've certainly sparked a lot of imagination. You've looks like you're one of the most renewable resources on campus, Laura. Hope you continue and hope to see you again. Thanks everybody for this rich hour of learning. And any other parting comments?
Oh, when is the ribbon cutting ceremony for the trail? I don't have that information.
I believe
December
that's
8th.
December 8th.
I don't remember what time, but December 8th.
I think at noon.
Okay. Thank
behind
you.
Thank you, Laura.
behind the School of Music.
Yep.
By that.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you,
Super excited
Laura.
about that.
Yes, thank you. Nice to meet all of you.
Ew,
Take care.
nice to meet you.
Thanks, Laura.